Test. Yeah. Test, baby. I feel like this might be a little too loud. How's it going, chat? What's up? Getting my scene set up so you'll be able to see me here in a sec. I want to start out by saying you better smash that like button. Let's get this thing going. I don't normally do it like this, but I think it's worth it today. So let's get it going. Oh snap! I might have to do this without a camera. How's that? You want to we could just do it like this. You see that? How's that? You like that background? Do you like my randomly generated Windows 11 desktop image? What's up, repentant remnant? What's up, the other 8 of you? 6 likes already. All right. Spencer. Money. That's what this is all about. Caravaggio. What's up? Do I really not have a camera? Oh, fuck, dude. Hold on. I think Ian's in the chat. I should put up a picture of a drone. Yeah. Look, I could put up any kind of picture that I want. I'm going to put up the Theory Underground channel. And I'm going to start off by saying a couple things. So, yeah, welcome to Theory Underground, everybody. So what you currently see on the screen, if you have eyeballs on it, is the Theory Underground channel. And the reason I have it up is because I was just talking with Ian. He was just talking about how he really likes the playlist I was doing called The Revolution Will Not Be, How the War Against the Left Was Won. This playlist, its thumbnail is what he was thinking of when he was thinking of the title of the series itself. The thumbnail, it's dark. It's over like a sort of, like you could kind of see the Dave Wave treescape there in the background, but it's all darked out, and it just says, "You are in enemy territory and your side lost a long time ago." And this series is pretty much just me reading a chapter here from this book over here, and then another chapter from a different book over here, right? Well, there hasn't been a new installment in that series for a while, right? This is what it's been. It's just been, let's see. I'll read off the ones that it's been. So The Revolution Will Not Be, How the War Against the Left Was Won. Then The Revolution Will Not Be, How the War Against the Left Was Won. And then it goes, The Lenin Legend, Episode 3 of The Revolution Will Not Be, How the War Against the Left Was Won. And then it goes Trotsky equals Stalin. Episode 4 of The Revolution Will Not Be, How the War Against the Left Was Won. And then 5, I guess it was out of order. 5, The Revolution Will Not Be, How the War Against the Left Was Won. It doesn't actually tell you what it is. It just says it's upcoming. And that's because I ended up doing it in an M-Stew on the 2nd anniversary of Theory Underground. So you probably know what that's all about, right? You watched the whole thing, whole 12 hours. I'm sure you watched that, right? Podcast listeners, you watched it, of course, right? No, nobody watches the whole M-Stew. And so, I mean, a couple of you do, but, a lot of the real ones still don't get a chance to watch the whole thing. That's just the way of it. And so I'm telling you about it because it's something special that happened that will be released via podcast and as a standalone video on this channel and added to this playlist. But also for the podcast folks, you've never actually gotten episodes 1 through 4 of The Revolution Will Not Be. And also the title of 1 and 2 doesn't actually say what I'm reading there. Those are chapters from Surveillance Valley. So that's what that is. Surveillance Valley, Palmatic, that's pretty much what it's been so far. But there are pieces on this chessboard, and there are episodes for this series. They haven't been moved or put up front and center yet until, boom, I came back all these months later, 4 months later, for the new installment, for the new episode. And I'll just take you to that really quick, show you where it's at for the people who actually want to get to it. The second anniversary MStew, if you were to click on that, let's see. Do we have a... Yes, Frogman gave us the epic... what do we call it? Table of contents, right? So thank you. These kinds of tables of contents are just absolutely amazing because it means that you can just jump to a distinct point in the stream. Quick little side note on that. If someone else does one of these sort of tables of contents, you can kind of redo it with your own captions. And your captions might be better than theirs. They might be different in some way that works better for one person as opposed to another. So I want to encourage people to do this. You just take the whole table of contents that someone else did, right-click it, copy it, go up, paste that into the comment section, and boom. Now you can sit here and actually edit, and then you could also add other timestamps. So basically, in my ideal TU would be this place with a bunch of people doing what Fulvoma 512, who we call Frogman, did. So, or does. He does it so often. So thank you. I actually don't know if Fulvo is a guy or gal, but it doesn't matter because everyone on the internet is a guy. That's just how it works. Now, with that said, if you were to go to the 3 hour point, 3 hours, 2 minutes, 3 seconds into the second anniversary stream at TU, that's where it is The Case Against the Sexual Revolution, David and Snellgrove McCarricker on Gender Ideology and the Sexual Revolution. Controversial stuff. In fact, it's so controversial, I like to bury it. I like to have this discourse be, like 1% of what goes on at TU because it's disproportionately prevalent in the discourse today. It hijacks everything. But progressives and liberals and leftists, the way they respond to it is a dead end. And it's part of why the left lost. And so it's a very interesting thing to have to go down. And even if you come up with a different opinion from us or from Louise Perry in that work, because we disagree with her as well on some things. But the point is to structure the discourse at TU so that people who would take this text seriously don't get shut out. And know that, yeah, you can be here. You can see that that's a problem with the left, and then you can still be here. That's important. It's been a very important thing all along at TU. And if you want examples of us saying pretty much the same stuff that we were saying there, you can go to the first Weeks in Review that we did when TU was just a little baby, little newborn baby. We would do these Week in Review streams and or just pre-recorded videos that would be released after the fact. And there was plenty of stuff that we would cover. And one of them was the ways that the medical industry and the surgical or psychiatric or pharmaceutical industries have politicized and now prey off of working class kids who are being used as guinea pigs for all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I'm reading chat now, motherfucker. Jesus fucking Christ. I swear to God. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to remove you from the channel, but there's nothing that drives me crazier than these Twitch-brained people who come along and Are you reading the chat? Could you tell that I was talking? Could you tell that I had a whole thread that I was following through? I'm not sure. But yes, I check the chat. I just don't check it like a Twitch streamer, which means I say what I want to say and then I'll check in. So, Caravaggio says the revolution will not be demonetized. And Dave is reading minds and the chat. Sorry, some. I did not mean to actually remove you from the channel. I meant to time you out. So, okay. What are we here to talk about right now? We're here to talk about money. And I just want to say something pretty basic. Now, all of the stuff that I let in with the M-Stew, the 12 hours, jump to the 3-hour mark, it's just because Ian and I were just having this conversation about that playlist, The Revolution Will Not Be. And I think it's important to highlight right now, because now that we've had Hawes on the channel, and of course we always have Platypus and Sublation or Philosophy Portal types of people who will be around, which is kind of a spectrum of Marxist, materialist, revolutionary types to, philosophy, just philosophy, basic. That whole spectrum brings in people who will see us as either the Marxist revolutionary types or they will see us as just the philosophy types. Because from the standpoint of the Marxist, we're just doing a kind of idealism or counter-revolutionary whatever. From the standpoint of the philosopher, you're just really into philosophy and maybe even science or something like that. Like, you're going to look at us and you're going to go, okay, these are like some militants, like they're on some activist shit, right? This is a well, I mean, I guess it's by design, right? Because we're all people who are kind of afoot in each of these worlds, right? But it's not just a synthesis of these two worlds. It's also an immanent critique of these two worlds, long term. That's what's going on, right? And so I just really wanted to highlight The Revolution Will Not Be and apologize to the podcast people because you've never actually gotten access to these episodes. And in apologizing to the podcast people, I also just wanted to take it back to, look, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it onto the podcast, and I'm constantly beating myself up about it. And one of the big realizations recently was Why Left is its own podcast, meaning that if you go to Spotify and you look up Why Left, it's separate from Theory Underground. And that makes sense, but also the self-legitimating Johnson series that I started with Nance, that's on the regular TU podcast. And everything we do at Why Left is for the sake of TU. So does it make sense that they're compartmentalized? One of the big problems with that is if you have a person who's subscribed to TU and they've been subscribed for 2 years and they get excited when they see new episodes and then eventually they get around to listening to those episodes, it's very easy for them to currently be ignorant of the fact that Why Left is a thing. And so to the podcast folks who didn't know about that, yeah, Why Left is a thing and it's freaking awesome. It's freaking awesome. I bought the rights to the theme song to What's Left, which What's Left was like, it's like Why Theory podcast, McGowan and Engley. It's like Why Theory, but for politics, right? It's What's Left was about pushing the Bernie crats into a more materialist position, right? Benjamin Studebaker is the one who had conceived that podcast because he had been on the Dead Pundit Society a few times as a guest with Amy Therese and at the moment I'm drawing a blank because I was never a listener of Dead Pundit Society. But long story short, there was a point when Therese and Studebaker started their own thing and they did What's Left from I would say probably March or April 2019 through Super Tuesday 2020. And that was when Amy and Benjamin parted ways. And he really hasn't felt like he could do stuff with people. Like there's not really like the right kind of thing going on until TU, and it was at TU Con when he was like, yes, this is something I want to do a lot more of. And we were having a great time. And that's kind of what Why Left came out of, is this productive contradiction conversation about the idea of the left, about whether left is in fact the right idea, not just as a signifier, but as a signified, right? Is the problem, as well as the solutions that follow from the conception of that problem, something that is accurately understood as from this sort of left standpoint, regardless of which historical version of that idea you want to resuscitate, whether it's a more anarchist, social democratic, Marxist, communist, Maoist, MLM, whatever the fuck, it doesn't matter. Point being, for the kind of radical clearing that at least I've set myself to in terms of bracketing out certain things and then suspending certain presuppositions, and one of the big parts of all of that process has been to take on my own sort of sacred dogmas. And so in a sort of sense, it's like, we often think about TU being a place for workers with earbuds, but you'll find versions of the copy where I write workers with earbuds who are burnt out on partying or activism or academia. And the reason I do that is because that's the three sides of myself that burnt out and resulted in the, what became Theory Underground. So if you don't know who these people are, then welcome, and you'll figure it out eventually. So, yeah, Caravaggio, I banned somebody already. Yeah, I'm gonna ban you next. You fucking say one wrong thing, Caravaggio, you're out. Francois said, "Can I have my money back?" So the title of this stream is "No, you cannot have your money back." And I wanted to talk about that for a second, but first let me get this poll started. So, did you smash the like button yet? Yes. No, I'll get right on that. Thanks. And then the third option, which I always have some variant of, is "No, I hate you," or "No, I want to see you fail." But let's do "No, I will kill you." No, I will kill you. Okay, there we go. So, and a lot of people have said that this is a good reminder because they often think that they liked it, but then they didn't. And so that's proven useful. And so, yeah, guys. Yeah. All right. Now, money. What do I want to say about money? And maybe I could actually show myself. Let's see if I can get the camera on. This is good for the podcast people. They never get to see me. So, it's better left to the imagination, right? Why does this not work? What is going on? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just not going to use the camera. I'm too impatient today. So, this is what happened. Somebody was a subscriber at Theory Underground, and then they opened up a claim with WooCommerce, which is the WordPress plugin that I used on the old website to take subscriptions. Okay, so WooCommerce is a digital storefront. It works with Stripe. Stripe is the most secure payment method on the internet. It's the thing that's operating behind most of the storefronts that you've interfaced with in your time on the internet. Okay, so they wanted their money back. Now, there's this question, maybe the person did reach out to me, right? And because I've had a couple people over time, maybe like 3 times, say, "Hey, I forgot about the subscription. I just got charged. I'm really tight on money right now. Can you refund me?" And the thing is that refunding costs money. When McDonald's and Walmart and Amazon do quick and easy returns, it costs them money too, but it pays off for them to do it because of the economies of a scale that they've achieved and the amount of people who buy thinking that they will return something after they try it out, but in reality, they don't get around to returning it. And so that's a big part of the business model with the quick return policies. I just want to say that Theory Underground is bootstraps and duct tape and my own Amazon wages that were saved, and my wife working 60% of the load for a couple of months until I was able to make enough that I could go back to 50-50, right? Like there's constant sacrifice here. And I still don't have health insurance. And Mikey is far from being freed from wage labor in terms of the building that we're doing here, right? If you want to get involved, then great. And then if you get involved and then you want to go do other things and you're like, hey, this isn't for me or just not right now, well, then that's fine. But when you're like, oh, I'm broke, so could you refund me? I'm broke too, motherfucker. That's my point. I'm broke too. And it's like, I actually have to pay just to return that money, right? So this person, I don't know who, opens a claim with WooCommerce. I don't get notified about it. I don't know if they ever actually took it up with me in the first place or not. I have normally refunded people. I'll just do it through Venmo so that I'm not getting charged the money that I used to get charged when I would do refunds. Anyway, I just want to put up a big old sign on the front that says no refunds. Okay. And the reason I want to do that is because not only did this person go and open up a claim to get their $30 back, I got fined $15. So that's shitty. So it's like, yeah, it's like I can either pay $4 to refund you myself, or you can go take it up with them and then it'll be $15, which is like, it's not like I have like these stacks of Benjamins sitting around on the counter here. Like this is not a lucrative operation, right? Now it's going to become more so as me, Mikey, and Benjamin sort of find our groove and harness our drive and a nice sort of like working relationship between our different seminars and our courses and then the guest lecturer courses that we'll be bringing on. Yes, it's going to become the kind of thing that has a lot of potential to free Mikey, which of course freeing Mikey means me and Anne have to be freed. Like Anne, because she's really good at spreadsheets and administrative stuff. She likes doing that kind of thing. Right now, I do it because I can't not. But it is grueling work. And that's what I want to bring it back to. I think that there is, especially with the leftists I'll say, I don't want to say my audience because I want to say my audience is smarter than this. But with the internet, right? We run into these people who are like anti people getting paid, right? Like their idea of workers getting paid is like, oh, well, it's blue collar workers that are getting paid. I am a blue collar worker, right? Like that's what I come from. Like I've worked something like 30 jobs, 28 of them were blue collar, right? And out of all those jobs, yeah, I have the habitus of somebody who's a blue collar worker, meaning which, like, if I've done the work, no, motherfucker, you're not getting the money back. I did the work. That came out of my, like, everything. And no, I have not been compensated for all of that, like, not even close. And so, of course, it's hard to square or to get down to the bottom of it. But no, at the end of the day, my time energy is not something that's been freed so that I can have skole, which means like active leisure without external pressures and, no need to preoccupy yourself with necessary labor. No, I do not have that existence. I have the existence of working more than I've ever worked in my life. And this is all like base building. It's some of these jobs are ones that I'm able to phase out in the short term. Some of these jobs are jobs that won't be phased out until the long term. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to do a little improv stream to say, look, guys, this isn't, if you want to donate money, then you go to Patreon. If you want to donate money, you can make it via PayPal, Venmo, become a subscriber at Substack. Those are all just ways of donating money to support the free content. That makes sense, right? To support the free content. And all of those are ways that you could also potentially get reimbursed if you want to. But look, like, this is, at the end of the day, a lot of things, and it has a lot of potential, but there is that element of it that is under this word we don't like called business, right? The root word for business in Spanish takes us back to negotiation, right? In Latin. And the point is that, like, most of what business has been historically is people being like, I like this. No, I don't like it that much. You would have to sell it to me for this much. And so haggling becomes a thing, right? And then we live in this world where that's been cut out, and now you just get what you want. And if you decide, then you can just get your money right back. Okay. Yeah, but there's a big difference between Walmart and Amazon and poor little old me. Hey, there you go. That's a basic point. No, you don't get your money back unless I get my time energy back. How about that? So if you can get me back what I gave you in the first place, well, then great. But you can't. And if I was doing it all for one person, that would actually make sense. But instead, I'm doing it for this sort of amorphous blob of people. And the amorphous blob of people, instead of me getting paid, say, $2,000 per month so that I'm able to do this full time and still pay rent and get groceries, and invest some back into paying a web programmer, right? If instead of getting that from the amorphous blob of 60 to 100 individuals, I was getting that from one person, like Frederick Engels was just like funding it, or Felix Weiss, the guy who was like giving all the money to Horkheimer, well, then that'd be great. It'd be also bad in other ways, because I'd have to like really like work on that relationship. And then if that person ever felt like, no, I'm not getting what I want from this, then that one person can cut me free. And of course, it's the worst kind of freedom in a sort of sense, right? Because it's that kind of freedom that means, oh yeah, now you are just going to have to go back to work at a shitty job. Well, yeah, part of the pricing model at TU, specifically with the subscriptions, we're not talking about the stuff for the free stuff. We're not talking about the funding of the free content over on Patreon. We're talking about subscribers at the actual website, or, like the membership. I don't want it to be too small, and I don't want it to be too big. I don't want to just have one big patron, and I don't want to have 1,000 really small patrons. The point is to get some kind of mid patronage. So it's like, you got to have a good crew of people, but it doesn't have to be thousands. And it's definitely not going to be one. When it's one person, that one person can like wield it over you, right? And it gets complicated. But when it's like between $30 and $300 per month, which is the new 50 and 300, 30 was the old one. When it's between $50 and $300 a month, there is a lot more flexibility, I feel like, for people to come and go, right? but it's not like such a mass scale that it's not going to matter or that it doesn't hurt. It hurts a little bit. And I'm just saying, no, no, you're not going to get refunded. All right. If I get refunded, what would that even look like? Like, how could we do that where it would be fair? This is what it would look like. You get back your $30, or if you've made that payment like three months in a row, you get back your $90. But then because you've consumed some of my content, I'm gonna come lobotomize you. How about that? So that I can take back my work that you've assimilated and thought about. How about that? I'll come to your house. I'll lobotomize you. How about that? That's what's going to happen. If I find out who did this claim on WooCommerce, that's what I'm just joking. I'm just joking. All right. Anyway, I'm just having fun. All right. All right. So I'm going to read the chat. And we got 32 of you still here. That's crazy. That's crazy. I thought by now I would have lost half of you. Free lobotomy? Says Pat Main. Yes, it's a free lobotomy. No, I'm going to charge you. you. You get your money back, but then I'll come to your house, lobotomize you, and then I'm going to empty your wallet to pay for the lobotomy. No special person said, okay, but Dave, I forgot to renew my Fortnite Battle Pass. Please give backy. Please givey backy. Money bag. Yo, Marshall Esotericist is here. Francois Riotard said, ha 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 ha. I rewound and listened at 2 times speed. No special person said, Dave, don't do a bro. It's going to look so bad. I wonder if I should time you out or remove you from the channel, because from now on, when people give me unsolicited advice, that's what happens. Since you said something funny later on, I'm just going to let it go, but I don't take I don't take unsolicited advice from chat, guys. So if you give it, you get timed out at bare minimum. All right. So, and it really is like the most annoying thing. If I have a question, I will ask it. Anyway, also when it comes to doing a bro, if you don't fucking know that I do the roided fucking dude bro losing his cool at least once a month on this channel, and that it looks bad to a person of a certain kind of disposition, well then, welcome. You're in for a treat. Oh, yeah, more advice. Better stop that. Spencer says, I mean, it doesn't really make sense to get a refund because the product is information. I could download all the course materials in a few minutes and demand a refund. No, 100%. Yeah, exactly. We're just crowdsourcing paying for something that can't properly be paid for and that can't really be compensated in any clear way, right? It just doesn't work. Francois says, I always thought it was funny you guys just jacked the logo and music from what's left. Yeah, well, we didn't jack it. We paid for the music fair and square. And the logo, it is different. It's a little WWE-ified and neonified, slightly dimensionified. It's an upgrade. Francois says, worker is a condition, not an identity, and I'm glad you're no longer a worker. Yeah, that's true. Except I still have all of the assumptions, drive, desire, habits of thought and action of a worker. And so, you know, that's part of the issue here, and something that I am becoming all too aware of. Taco Truck Cartel said, "You got soft hands, boy. I work 80 hours a day." Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's right. Except that if you know anything about the taco truck that's supposed to be down the block from me, down the street from me, at the end of the block, no. Uh, I need you to do something. I need you to find out where they've been. My local taco truck's just been gone for the last 5 days, and I'm worried they won't come back. So if your taco truck cartel knows, get after it. I need them back. Marshall Esotericist said, "Are you just the one who wanted the refund?" I'm just teasing. Nice. Songs 4K said, "Commodity exchange is challenging for some." Yeah. And it's more complicated when symbolic exchange wants to be involved, right? And symbolic exchange wants to be involved in this sort of anthropological sense of symbolic exchange. Not just like, oh, performatively and symbolically, like I do this, you do that, but like this is supposed to be deep, full, like the deeper, more meaningful kind of singular exchange that you can only really do in or between communities or like friends, and that always kind of wants to get involved, especially on the internet, which is largely based on selling people, a simulacrum of that. And that's the point of Baudrillard, right? But then the point of Bourdieu would be when it comes to games for recognition, any field that arises or where there's some serious stakes for symbolic capital to be won or lost, that gets even more complicated because people do not want money involved at all when that's the game. Like the thing with symbolic capital is that it has to act completely economically disinterested. And so anti-capitalism, anti-business, anti-money, I do art for art's sake, I do philosophy for philosophy's sake. Like that whole thing gets supercharged as people are, and it's not just like, it's not like a performance. It's not like a conscious thing. It's just like, no, like like all of these things were prestige and honor for things that are like goods in themselves. Like those things get supercharged in terms of value when they disavow actual capital, right? But of course, in bureaucracies, in government, money it's always a factor, but a person who's treating their career as though it's like this deep calling, this great occupation, and maybe it is for them. The game only really works when they are economically disinterested, right? Now, a sort of wrecking ball has come to the structures. We live in the post-class fractured mass. This is the sort of wreckage and sewage from these worlds that have collided that we exist between. And so it's not exactly that way, especially not for us, people who were never ensconced in such legacy institutions, who never really had a shot at that kind of symbolic capital. But yeah, it gets a lot more complicated because those games are a factor in what we're doing with TU, right? Like we want to do this thing and we want to do it for specific ends that are not economically driven, but we're also like aware that that's important and that matters, and workers should be compensated for their work, right? So it's like this weird thing. And then of course the symbolic exchange part comes in. So between Bourdieu and Baudrillard, you could write a whole book on the problems between the attention economy and the old legacy prestige economy. We could put it that way, right? You can think about the attention economy as pseudo prestige, as pseudo recognition, right? That's on this one side. Whereas on this other side, it's like, no, it's like institutionally guaranteed. If you are the president, you're going to be treated like the president in almost any case. Like most people will still take you to be the president, even if you're incompetent. That's like the institutional kind of prestige, where it's like the position in some cases, in some ways, is going to matter more than how the position is performed, right? And it's that special something that is at stake in these kinds of conquests that arise within any field that works around symbolic, or that, I don't want to say works around symbolic capital, because what I'm trying to get at is like there's a gravitational, magnetic sort of force field that arises around any serious opportunity for symbolic capital. That's just part of the game. And it's something that we've been thinking about pretty seriously at TU, and that I've lectured on throughout the last several months in various ways. I mean, really, my whole Social 101 course kind of became about that. And the stuff that led up to that point was all just laying the groundwork for that, and for thinking about it. Because we really have to think Bourdieu before we can think Baudrillard. And Mikey's going to be teaching Intro to Baudrillard 2025, baby. What else? Dave L says the guy delivering my food is named Sam, and it's taking everything I have not to message him. Asylum for the feeling. What, is that a song? Am I missing something? Sam, Asylum, feeling? Songs 4K says, Fear the Gods at WooCommerce. No special person is officially uncomfortable. Yeah, well, just don't be that guy. Francois Riotard says, fair, you have the injuries of class. Thank you. Yeah. Songs 4K says AOC wears it best on a dress, as if Tax the Rich wasn't a show for the rich. Yeah, guys, 100%. Good shit. All right. Well, that was a fun little stream. I'm going to cut this off. Thanks for dropping by. I just wanted to, I've been thinking a lot about how I wanted to be able to do little streams too. I do a lot of long streams, but I like the idea of being able to do a little stream. You all make it possible. Thanks for being here. And if I haven't fought with you in chat yet, it's because you just don't say much. And the fact is there's a lot of people who don't say much in the chat. So, but I recommend everybody try streaming so that you understand. Nance has been having this sort of realization recently, right? So I'll actually close out by doing, let's say 3 billion Nances. So if you go to 3 billion Nances on YouTube, you will find the Nance channel, right? And it's something that he's started pretty recently. It's pretty awesome. Look at that cover banner photo. It just says exit. So Nance is a photographer, among many other things. And recently he's been hosting these conversations around Benjamin Studebaker's The Chronic Crisis of American Democracy. They've been doing exegeticals, which is fantastic. So yeah, you should definitely subscribe. I'll drop the link here in the live chat. Folks who are listening from podcasts, you can figure it out yourself. And my point, why I brought him up, is because Nance has been realizing that live streaming is fucking crazy and puts you into this weird sort of relation to the live chat, right? And there is just like this perpetual misrecognition occurring because someone says something and they mean something else. But only one person technically has the floor. And so you think that you can respond, but you can't really respond. The conditions of possibility for having real conversations and genuinely being able to respond to people do not exist in the post-class fractured mass, right? It's something about the medium. It's something about gerrymandering Befindlichkeit. It's something about the structural stultification of time energy and functional illiteracy and the genocide of voice and no canon. Like, it's something about all of that. But it's also something about this sort of safetyist, anti-testosterone sort of thing, right? As Cadell says, we're all a mama tit here, like the internet, the screen being. It's mama tit. Like, you're on the boob. It's a boob of like pseudo nurture, right? And if you don't have the disposition of somebody who's going to like constantly assume the best and therefore like ingratiate like chat, well, it's probably going to go the other way. And like Nance is just like, I'm so fucking over it, dude. Chat, fuck chat. But it's not about chat. It's just like, there's a main thing that's happening, right? There's an event, and we're not here just to stream. We're here to say our piece. And if it's a conversation, there's probably some specific stuff that we want to get to. We've probably been thinking about it for months, if not years. And now that we're having that conversation, it's like there's kinds of questions that help bring clarity to the conversation. And then there's conversations that open cans of worms and that often come off like some kind of a gotcha. And there's a certain kind of commenter who's like, and now I don't want to pick on anyone here. And this is not about anyone here, but like there's a certain kind of commenter that's giving like advice that was not asked for. That's one thing. But there's also something way worse where it's like you come along and you go, oh, I disagree with Benjamin. And then you say something that any rational human being would agree with, as though he had just said something that contradicts the thing you just said. And I just want to beat that person up. I have nothing but let's fight energy for that kind of shit, because it's like, okay, we're all the smartest person in the room. We all think we know better than the person who's talking. We get it. I get it. Everyone gets it. But also stop assuming that the person talking really is so stupid and that you actually understood what they said enough so that you could disagree with it, right? So like one kind of great question, as a clarifying question, instead of saying, and this is important because you can turn what is an obnoxious question that seems like you're trying to do some kind of a gotcha, you can turn that into a super productive question that helps the whole conversation. How? Simply do this. So let's say Benjamin says, I'm going to keep going with the same example. Say he says something and you're like, I disagree. Instead, it's this thing. Well, instead of saying I disagree, instead it's this thing, think, what is it that you disagree with? Did he really say that? Now, do your best to quote him and say, did you, by this thing that you just said, mean X, Y, and Z? X, Y, and Z being the thing that you were going to say you disagree with. The clarifying question is the important part, right? To even figure out if the person would disagree with you, or if you have a real contradiction. I'm all about real contradictions, but they just have to be real, guys. And of course, once you've asked a few clarifying questions over time and you've really gotten the person's position, I mean, yeah, you're going to have much better critiques. And of course, those will be even better if you were to say, turn on a camera and say your piece and then share the link. Or if you were to write a piece out, right? Write a piece. Here you go. So Benjamin said this, and I was like, do you really mean this one thing that I disagree with? And he was like, Well, kind of, but with a stipulation. And I can get behind X, Y, and Z parts of that, but nope, now I've honed in on the disagreement, and it comes down to this, I think. But that sort of carefulness, it's kind of contrary to like sort of, I think, the vibe here sometimes, right? And so it's like I'm asking you to be more patient with us than we have to be with you, because we have to deal with 1,000 anonymous people, and we don't have time to sit there and seriously read it through. So yeah, you will be misunderstood if you engage in the chat. And so it's best, and we're misunderstood the whole time we're talking, because you all have the attention spans of like a cat, right? And so it's like, yeah, no. So we're figuring it out, and we're not going to stop streaming. And so this kind of frustration that Nance is speaking to, it's something I often don't feel anymore. But that's also because in a lot of cases, I will just ignore chat unless I'm solo streaming. Or if I know what Mikey's saying, I've heard him say it 1,000 times because we say this stuff in conversations all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and check out chat while he's going on this thing that he says. And then I'm like, oh, we got this person in the chat being a dumbass. Okay, well, then I'll engage with the chat. But there is this part of me that wants to say, Nance, we just need to not engage with chat ever. Err on the side of not engaging. And then, sometimes you can. But overall, this is not a place that you can come to and just do the thing that live chats tend to do. So the hope is that you'll help with developing better questions over time, so that we are able to better clarify ourselves, so that people who are coming to this content to binge it after the fact, working with their earbuds in, not able to participate in the chat, are able to follow along, and the content's still useful for them, right? No special person said, seems fair. Never know till you're in that seat receiving unsolicited advice, benefit of the doubt type shit, all good. And then for real understandable, that for the window into what streamers wrestle with. Thanks. Oh, thanks for the window into what streamers wrestle with. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, we should probably lead with that kind of shit, or have like the bot in chat, like spam reminders for folks, maybe. I don't know. But, yeah, no problem. No problem. No hard feelings. Of course not, right? That's the whole thing. Just being able to say, fuck off with that. It's not ever personal. Anyway, so JA said, interesting, nicely put observation. Never trust Greeks bearing gifts. In other words, less rhetoric and more search for patient truth. Songs 4K said, come for Benjamin in the comments. Stephen Colbert Cheese said, never engage with chat. Yeah, you're right. I should not. Or maybe like for every time I check in on the chat, I have to open a book that's beside me to a random page, and then I'll read a random paragraph, right? If not by identity politics, how then should racism be confronted? I think back to the heroes and heroines of my youth. Each was committed to the socialist transformation of society. Each was also sensitive to and went out of their way to show solidarity with historically marginalized groups. When anti-Semitism was still rife in American society, Paul Sweezy, a patrician and physically Nietzsche's blonde beast incarnate, selected his closest collaborators, a trio of Jews, Leo Huberman, Paul Barron, Harry Magdoff. A lifelong trade unionist and self-conscious Jew, she was on the original editorial board of Jewish Currents, Annette Rubinstein crossed the picket line in 1968 to support the beleaguered Black community in New York City, fighting for community control of schools against the predominantly Jewish and racist United Federation of Teachers. Peter Steger, a mainstay of the union movement, also contributed lyrics to and helped popularize We Shall Overcome. What am I reading? Oh, this is the Norman Finkelstein, Identity Politics versus Class Struggle. Here on starts on page 229 of Underground Theory, Coming to a City Near You, the first Theory Underground anthology. So yeah, that'll be the new rule. I'll read from the chat, but then I will flip a book open and read a passage. So Zach said, responding to something from way earlier, but be careful about publicizing dollar amounts of chargeback fees. You might give the wrong people ideas. That's true, Zach, but it's a small enough operation. I think I can get away with it. And it's an LLC, so, it's built to go bankrupt. Nick said, can you appoint moderators that push good comments to you? Every moderator I've ever made on this channel was just somebody who I've seen in the chat a lot. And then we had a large number of people come rushing into a stream. And I was like, okay, I can't keep up with this shit. And then I just gave the moderator hammer to somebody. And so I've got a bunch of people like that. But you're right. Like having some like real appointed moderators, that would be crazy, especially if they were pushing good comments to me. I mean, that would mean that they're able to follow the conversation on stream and discern good quality versus bad, to discern the difference between the two. And that's a skill. That's a skill. So Nick, if you've got that skill, let me know. There are people who will hopefully make themselves known over time as good at that. And I'd be happy to trial run people. Steven said, are you supposed to guess the book? No, are we supposed to guess the book? Yeah, that's a fun game, right? We could do that. I could, you know what? So after reading this time, I'll just read a paragraph or two from this next text, and we'll see if anybody remembers it or knows it. Greg said, engaging with ACP, Haas, or anyone who takes Hinkle seriously is an L. Well, looks like somebody in the chat thinks that he's smarter than me. Stephen Colbert Cheese says, don't let Destiny know you're reading Finkelstein. Ah. Oh, man. Finkelstein's really good at what he's good at. I'll just leave it at that. Zach said, you'd be surprised. J.A. said, you have off-site chats that give you more creative control, but the very word chat is by definition, superfluous small talk during a thing you're focusing on separately. Yeah, dude, it's like a medium is the message thing, 100%. Jay said, have and program an offsite chat with different forum rules. That is, this is like more, am I going to keep getting advice now? No, we're doing that. Trust me, that I'm fucking 8 years ahead of you on this one, J.A. Anyway, practical knowledge versus scientific explanation. Only by grasping the potential achievement and range of Matisse is it possible to appreciate the valuable knowledge that high modernist schemes deprive themselves of when they simply impose their plans. One major reason why Matisse is denigrated, particularly in the hegemonic imperium of scientific knowledge, is that its findings are practical, opportune, and contextual rather than integrated into the general conventions of scientific discourse. Yeah, so you guys know about this? J.A., I am paying an absurd amount of money to have it done properly and to make sure our security is top notch, right? And yeah, it's something that I tried to do with the old website, with the old app that I built. And I just couldn't do it because it needs original code. And there's just like a level of real professionalism, especially when it comes to people's security and all of that information. Professionalism, but also sanity, right? I've worked with a lot of programmers over the last 8 years, and having someone who really knows what he's doing is absolutely amazing. It's a real like relief after all the stuff I've been through. And yeah, that is one of the big features being worked on. Steven said he can't guess the book. Ian said subscribe and see, but no money back. LOL. Uh, Greg said, no answer. I'm out. Here, let me help you with that. Let me help you leave. Steven said, guess I don't win a free membership. Look, if you can, I was going to say this, but then I realized I can't. I was going to say, if you could guess this book, I'll send it to you in the mail, but I like it too much. I'm not going to part ways with it. It's a book I saw C. Derek Varn say is like CIA propaganda. So it's really good though. And especially this section on Matisse, which I might be mispronouncing. It might be Metis, but it's roughly getting at the same thing that Heidegger is getting at with readiness to hand, right? The kind of embodied knowledge that comes from trial and error that in a lot of cases can be pre-conscious or hard to put down into a manual, or even if you did put it down into a manual, it's not gonna work. And so this example that the author is bringing up here is fire. I think about it all the time. It's at a part of the book I don't think most people ever make it to, right? So metis, remember, it's just that kind of embodied knowledge. And he said that it is denigrated, particularly in the hegemonic imperium of scientific knowledge. Of course it is, right? Because that's like, scientific knowledge has to be repeatable, has to be demonstrable, has to be explicit, meaning that you really could write a textbook on your findings. But what he's getting at here is a kind of knowledge that is local, and or even you could say potentially singular. But this is especially local. What do we mean by that? Well, I'll read the next paragraph. He says, we have seen the idiosyncrasies of Matisse at work in the historical vernaculars of measurement of area, weight, and volume. The aim was always to achieve a local purpose or to express an important local feature, such as a farm of 2 cows, rather than to accommodate some universal unit of measurement. Like Squanto's maxim, such vernacular measures apparently often conveyed more information than an abstract measure could. They certainly conveyed information that was more locally relevant. It was just this local practical index, which varied from place to place, that ensured that Matisse would be confusing, incoherent, and unassimilable for purposes of statecraft. The classification of flora follows much the same logic among indigenous people. What matters is local use and value. Thus, the categories into which various plants are sorted follow a logic of practical use. Good for making soup, good for making twine, helpful in healing cuts, effective for settling an upset stomach, poisonous for cattle, useless for weaving our cloth, favored by rabbits as food, good for making fences, and so on. This knowledge is never static. However, it is constantly being expanded through practical experimentation. And the categories into which floral reality is divided are clearly not the occasionally invisible Linnaean botanical categories favored by scientific researchers. The example with Squanto is really cool too, because the settlers couldn't grow corn using the old or the European almanacs, right? The almanacs had instructions about when to plant corn. That wasn't working. on the east coast of the U.S. And Squanto was like, oh, yeah, no, you don't plant the corn until the leaves of the oak trees are the size of a squirrel's ear. And what's crazy about that, according to this, is that that worked at varying altitudes. So something special in terms of pattern seeking behavior and sort of on the ground Matisse theorizing with the natives led them to seeing that not only does it work down in the valley to plant corn when the leaf of the oak tree is the size of the squirrel's ear, that shit works up in the mountains too, where the squirrels and the oak leaves are different sizes, right? Could have been the opposite, but no, it works. That's epic. That's a kind of knowledge. That's a real kind of knowledge, right? And so that's a kind of localized knowledge that can be super useful. Rules of thumb, right? Rules of thumb between workers don't often make it into the employee handbook, right? So that is something you're not going to get out of traditional schooling. That is something you're not going to get from high modern science, but that is nonetheless important. It's an important kind of knowledge. And this book is by James C. Scott. It's called Seeing Like a State, How Certain Schemes to Improve the Human Condition Have Failed. And it is, well, another way of thinking about this text is a critique of high modernism, which is this sort of, oh yes, solutions can just be rolled out by committees who have discussions, right? Like, oh, if people just talk around a table and then come up with a solution, that can be put into place, and then that will be great. But there is this sort of on the ground, localized dynamic just as a part of complexity, not to mention humans making things even more complex, that makes it hard to do that sort of top-down stuff. And in the introduction, he says this is something like those Austrian economists are aware of. The issue with guys like Mises and Hayek and all them Austrian boys, is that they think it's that capitalism works best for preserving or building off of the gains from that localized kind of knowledge, whereas states are bad at it. And his point is it works both ways actually, because capital, he's from his standpoint, it's hard to separate state and capital, right? Yeah. So Seeing Like a State is a great book. You can go listen to it on Audible if you don't like the robo readers, or if you haven't developed a tolerance for the robo readers. But if you got the robo reader thing figured out on Natural Readers or Speechify, you can always just go get the PDF to Seeing Like a State for free off of what? Off of, well, Library Genesis, if it's working. It's been kind of on and off lately. Or Anna's Archive, which is definitely still working. Though if you're not paying for it, you just have to wait sometimes up to 400 seconds, right? It's a thing. Anyway, oh shit, Watcher, sup, greetings from LA? Are you really in LA right now? That's killer. That's killer. No way. What are you doing in LA? I'm about to drive out and see you. Nikolai, that's crazy. Shalom from Israel. Oh, it's the person who was... Okay. JA said, engaging with YouTube content creators that have politics content, I mean. Wait, this is clarifying off of something from earlier. Let me go up. JA. Oh, no, yeah. You're talking about the special chat. And that is what I mean. Trust me, that is what I mean. Songs 4K said embodied knowledge sounds like what AI wants to harvest and mimic. Yeah, I think that there's something really important you could tease out from that right there. That'd be a good paper. JA said that's what it feels like, and engaging with political YouTubers is pain to me, but I'm masochism inclined. Yeah, you just can't not do it, right? I feel that. Yeah, James C. Scott. That's right, Stephen. Songs 4K said there's still a lot of working around bugs and patching between systems. JA said film analysis content creators, by contrast, are very wonderful, polite, and generous with responding. Film analysis content creators. Yeah, no, I would say it's also similar to like music analysis, but I like the example of language learning communities. There's something inherently paranoid and or suspicious. Like there's like an antagonistic kind of stakes in any field that is or is beside anything people think of as political, right? And it's compounded in the worst ways by the internet. And so yeah, it's like language learning communities. Nobody's like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's just like, no, let's just all try to fucking fail together, and it's great. And that was why TU for a while was leading with multilingualism sessions. The only issue is like, yeah, to actually do those required chopping up our week and having way too many Zoom calls. And then we could never do readings. So yeah, no special person said, anyone have recommendations for media, books, podcasts, even interviews or websites where I can learn more about prefiguration / dual power, or even just a modern what should we do? You must be really new to this channel. Let me just give you a quick little rundown here. So check it out. This is Theory Underground. Let me take you to the channel. All right. Where's the about section? It's not where it used to be. It used to be like right over here. But let's see. Here we go. Theory Underground is a teaching, research, and publishing platform by and for dropout workers with earbuds and burnt out postgrads who want to understand the situation as a means towards figuring out the conditions of possibility for the good life. Right? This is very carefully phrased. There's like a newer version of that. If you go to theoryunderground.com, this says, looking to accelerate your way into a fresh understanding of our current situation? That's what Theory Underground is all about. We are a seminar, lecture, and book publishing institute for workers with earbuds and professionals who see no hope in existing institutions. Ah, fantastic, right? This is a lot more clear. There's another change we've made, which is instead of institute, it's a school. It's a school of thought in development in its process of becoming. But what makes it a school of thought or a school of philosophy, as opposed to just a building that has courses or a platform that has courses. What makes it a school is that there's a directionality, which means that there's a specific set of questions, problems, concepts, thinkers, fields, and texts that form the basic constellation of what keeps everybody around, right? So there's me, and then there's my closest fellow travelers, and then you can go out. There's concentric circles that get further and further from the center. And who are those closer core fellow travelers? They're the people that I have the most overlap with when it comes to the fundamental problems, questions, or I like to say questions, then problems, concepts, thinkers, fields, texts, right? And so bringing that all back around, look, if you want like bread tube, like how to be an anarchist or what should be done, there's like a lot of content creators who do that. If you want a list of them, I mean, I'm not going to give it to you, but I know that like American Johnson over at Non-Compete, he's an anarchist. He's a big fan of dual power, and he doesn't like hierarchies, and he's all about fighting oppression in pretty much all the ways that I would disagree with. We'll go for it. But what brings us together here is the fact that nobody, no existing institution, movement, organization, party, program, nothing has a monopoly on the correct diagnosis of our situation, much less what to do about it. Now, that's a big sort of, flag to kind of post in the sand here, right? That's a hot take. Well, yeah, but we're also dialectical about it. We think that everybody's got something to offer, right? So whether your ideas are 2,500 years old or 10 years old, if your idea, preferably if your ideas have been around long enough that other people have been able to, think through it and argue between themselves, that's even better. That sort of cultural digestion of an idea or of a school of thought, that's important, right? So I think the newest will go back is like Zizek versus Land, CCRU versus Ljubljana School, right? But then you can go back a bit further to Marxism. You can go back a little bit further to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the point is like all those schools of philosophy, they get at something. They have some truth. They have some kernel, right? And the goal of reassessing our current situation is not to throw out the past and say, we don't need any of that. We don't need elders. We don't need people who think they have it figured out. No, we do. As long as they can accept the fact that we're not going to agree on a lot, right? So guys like Chris Catrone, Todd McGowan, right? They're here on the screen. They're a great example of people who they get it, right? They get that we're not going to agree on everything, and that's okay with them. They get that our fundamental assumption, our fundamental operating assumption is that we need to reassess the situation. They get that, right? And of course, maybe they agree in part, but in different ways, right? And of course, that's true with both of them. But that's overall true of kind of everybody here. So this is not a place to come to if you're in a hurry to go get after it. This is a place to come to after you've burnt out on activism, after you've burnt out on programs and plans, after you've burnt out on slogans and a specific historical interpretation of social change, after you've burnt out on also potentially academia and or partying. Ostensibly, I don't want to say ostensibly. No, what's a better way to say this? I'll just say it this way. TU is for people who've undergone some kind of subjective destitution regarding one or all three of those things. And they're not in a hurry to get back into wasting their life doing pseudo activity, having pseudo joy. Like they're looking for something a bit more real. And that doesn't mean no praxis, right? This was a whole conversation we just had at Mikey's seminar. This does not mean no praxis. By the way, Mikey's seminar today was absolutely fire. He was on a fucking roll. He went deep into libido, Lacan versus Deleuze. That shit was fire. It's awesome. Guten Abend, Graham Lean. Good to see you. Good to see you. Mahosh is saying, anything by Angela Davis. Rebecca Solnit's A Paradise Built in Hell. Yeah, that's the kind of shit you're looking for. No Special Person. That's the kind of shit you're looking for. You'll get that. You'll get that over there. No Special Person said, I became a fan when One Dime interviewed you. The concept of time energy resonates a lot. Yeah, see, and that would be an example of one of the fundamental questions, problems, concepts, right, at TU. And a lot of the thinkers and texts And fields that are absolutely essential here are essential because of time energy theory itself. Yeah. All right, folks, I'm going to close it out. Thank you so much for being here. This was a blast. I had a lot more fun than I thought I would. And so maybe I'll do it again sometime soon. All right. Stick around and watch this whole PSA. It's got new information, especially the last half of it. So if you haven't seen it before, definitely give it a watch. And with that, have a good one.
We cannot do direct revolution, but the only way to lay the foundation for it is to do what you are doing to move the underground. It's a theoretically correct title.
Welcome to Theory Underground, a place for workers with earbuds who are tired of letting others read and think on their behalf, slipstreaming our way into an understanding of the situation that short-circuits the deadlocks of our moment.
Research at Theory Underground focuses on what is most important for understanding our current situation: theory of the subject, capital, time-energy theory, critical media theory, CMT, and the most essential critiques necessary for understanding why the theory, ideology, and common sense of influencers left to right misses the mark.
Theory Underground is coming to a city near you. What that has meant in the last year is traveling across the United States, into Canada, and then all over Europe to promote our books, courses, and ideas related to time energy and underground theory. You've been reading Underground Theory.
I'm a publisher and an editor. I run and review books. Literally, it's my living. This is the best edited collection I've ever read.
Okay, picture this scene. America, early 2021. An Amazon warehouse worker arises from the emerging underground theory internet scene to create spaces for untimely topics and concerns that are too often neglected or kept in isolation today. Joined by a revolving cast of underground theorists, academics, and critics, he establishes what will become Theory Underground, a teaching, research, and publishing platform by and for working-class intellectuals, autodidacts, and academics who want to do more than they're able to do within the confines of academia. That warehouse worker's name is David McKerracher, and his book Time Energy is his first major contribution to the world of theory. It was recently reprinted with a foreword by none other than Slavoj Žižek, who also contributed to Theory Underground's latest book.
My Bible, it's an excellent book.
A collection of essays called Underground Theory.
The rest of this PSA used to have a long-winded explanation about who Mikey is, about his seminar series, as well as the seminar series that I do at Theory Underground, but I'm going to short-circuit the whole thing by just saying this. You can support the free and public work at TU by becoming a patron over at Patreon, or if you want to attend the live recordings of the seminars that I do, that Mikey does, or that Benjamin Studebaker does, as well as unlock special access to past courses, get involved in the discussions, have us read your writing, etc., well, then you want to become a subscriber at the Theory Underground website. That's how you become a real member at TU. All right. And so I'm going to allow this video to close out with Benjamin Studebaker sharing why he believes in Theory Underground and is supporting this effort.
Yeah. So the thing that I notice is that a lot of people criticize the university. They criticize the left. They don't build an alternative institution. They will go, the university sucks, but you know what's great? Substack and Patreon and YouTube. And they'll lean into that. But that is a negation, right? You guys don't do that. You guys are interested in sublating the university within the newly emergent media. Or you could frame it the other way, sublating the newly emergent media within the university, right? And so this, of course, will ultimately lead, if you take it where it goes, to a question of institutions and having actual economic, social role possibilities for theorists. This is the critical crisis, which is that there are still some very bright, very well-educated people, but they are not able to replace themselves. And because most of them have university positions, their level of interest in replacing themselves is to some degree compromised. Yeah. They don't have to worry that much about themselves. They don't have that much stake in it because they're already set up. However, because you are in the underground, you have some potential of being able to actually create an institution or structure which makes it possible for people to do theory in the future. This is something that, as far as I can tell, only you are doing. The thing about freeing Mikey from wage labor, this idea not only that your channel would free you from the Amazon job, but that this could grow in such a way that it could provide spaces for multiple people, and then those multiple people could interact in the way that they would in a monastery or in a university department. This is the revolutionary idea in terms of raising consciousness and making it possible for us to think in such a way that we could return even to the horizons of the tens and talking about things like Medicare for all in a not stupid, not bullshit way, in a serious way. To get to that point, we need to raise our level of ability to think. We need new intellectuals in our generation that are real intellectuals and not people who are running around scared of what the DSA or their university department thinks of them. You have the potential to actually make a real material intervention into not just knowledge production, but in Bildung, into the making of people. Yeah. This is something that we can do. There's a window right now where I am not in the university, and so I have a real reason to think very seriously about, can we do something else? Because I'm annoyed, myself with the whole process of trying to be in that. And I would like there to be something else, something better. I have all my critiques of it that come in part from being at Cambridge, in part from studying ancient thinkers. We could do something better than it. Not just something that is an imitation or, steals some things from it and does the best you can with it, but something that actually is better and that produces the kind of theory that in modernity, how do you make a Hegel? How do you make a Marx? We have to reinvent this. It's no longer possible to do that. We've got to, I think, actually institutionalize in a material way, and this is the sense in which I will uphold the kernel of materialism, actually giving a shit about the structure and what kind of structure is necessary to give rise to a form of life in which this kind of really, really good work can be produced.